Let's take a look at the questions on homework number 13, starting with interpreting two-way tables. In this category, you have to be able to read a table both left to right and up and down. This table expresses all of the joint frequencies, but there are no marginal or total frequencies. So this question says that a survey was taken of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders about their favorite type of movie genre. How many 7th graders were surveyed? So in order to complete this task, you simply have to add up all of the numbers of the students in 7th grade who voted here. So we're going to add 19 plus 11 plus 12. You can use a calculator if you need to. Once you've computed, you can type your response. In this next question, they want to know how many people between the ages of 35 and 54 prefer soccer. So we have to read two ways. First, down the soccer column, and then across the 35 to 54 column, until we find where they join, which would be 7. 7 people have both of those conditions. The rest of these questions are very similar. We're going to go back and take a look at the other topic, finding percents in a two-way table. For this question here, you're asked to find the percent of youths surveyed that prefer reading electronic books. So we're reading youths and electronics. So that would be 40. And they want to know the percent of the youth surveyed. So again, at the beginning here, they asked for what percent of the youths. So of is your denominator. So we need to know how many youths were surveyed. And 68 were surveyed. Of all of those youths, how many preferred reading electronic books? And that would be 40. So 40 out of 68 is our part and whole. And now we have to determine that percentage out of 100. So I'm going to take a shortcut. Instead of solving this proportion, I'm going to divide 40 by 68, and then I'll times by 100. So 40 divided by 68 is my decimal value, and we times that by 100, and we get our percentage value. They told us to round our answer to the nearest whole percent. So 58.8 is going to round up to 59. Let's try that again. What percent of men? So we need to know how many men were surveyed, and this one already has a total column. So this is the total number of men. What percent of them surveyed shop online? So that would be 6. 6 out of 30 is what percent? So again, I'm going to divide 6 by 30 and then times it by 100. 20% of the men surveyed shop online. Let's go back and take a look at the third topic, number lines and interval notation. In this one, they give you interval notation, and they want you to graph it on the number line. Now, I want to start at the number 11, and then I want anything that is in the right or greater than direction. So I have to click once on the 11th, hold my mouse button down, and then drag it to the right. That's how the line and the arrow will appear. Because the 11 has a parens in front of it, that means I cannot be equal to it, so I click this dot, directly click right on it to make that circle open. All right, this time they gave me the graph, and they want me to write my answer in interval notation. So it looks like I am something that is towards negative infinity, but then once I get to positive 5, I stop. So I'm going to use an open parens and a closed bracket like this, because you can never be equal to infinity, but a closed circle means that I will be equal to 5, and that's why I have a bracket. One more time, you could be asked to graph, starting at 6, hold the mouse button down, and drag towards infinity. Keep dragging until the arrow appears. Last step, check your circle. Should it be open or closed? And that depends on this symbol. The symbol here is a bracket. That means I can be equal to it, so the circle should be closed. Let's take a look at the next topic of going back and forth between inequality notation. That means you're using one of these symbols here, or interval notation. So they want inequality notation. And when I have this symbol here, that means I am either this item or I am that item. So this symbol and the word or mean the same thing. We use this symbol when we're talking in an interval situation, and we use that symbol when we are using our inequality symbols like these. So because they want our answer in inequality notation, I'm going to be using this word or. But first, I have to talk about what's going on here. So what's going on there is that I can be less than or equal to negative 9. So x from my keyboard, less than or equal to, because this is negative infinity, which is lower, and then negative 9, which is my upper boundary. I know I need an equal to sign because this item has a bracket. Instead of this u, I'm going to use the English word or after my number 9. After the number 9, that's where I place the word or. So I'm either less than or equal to negative 9 or greater than negative 1. Because the negative 1 has a bracket, then I need a equal to sign after my letter x. Let's try that one more time. Remember, this word or is replaced with this U-shaped symbol. So the first thing I want to show is that I can be anything that's less than or equal to negative 8. So less than negative 8 means I go towards negative infinity, and then I stop when I get to negative 8. Now remember, infinities can never be equal, but since this inequality sign has an equal to, I need a bracket. Now I need this U symbol because I'm using interval notation, not inequality. Inequality notation gets the English word, interval notation gets the U shape. Alright, I can be anything greater than or equal to 3. Notice I can be equal to 3, so I'm going to start at 3, and I'm going to go towards positive infinity. Infinity never gets an equal to sign. So 3, and then infinity. Notice that my first symbol needs to be a bracket. Last one, negative infinity all the way up to 6. From negative infinity all the way up to 6. Or from 6 lower. So I'm going to say that x can be anything as long as it's less than, just less than, as long as it's less than 6. And that's because next to the number 6 is an open parens like this. Let's go back and revisit this topic on transforming formulas. You might need some scrap paper for this. The formula for the area of a trapezoid is 1/2 the height times base 1 plus base 2. Rewrite the formula to solve for h. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this 1/2 fraction. Now I know that the numerator of that fraction is 1, so I really only have to get rid of this dividing by 2. So in order to do that, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. Now notice, this is one full term. So I don't multiply anybody here, I'm just inversing the fraction. So 2a is equal to the height times base 1 plus base 2. They're asking me to get h by itself. So that means that I need to divide by this entire quantity. And now my h is by itself. That's the answer. So let's type that in here. We're going to say 2a fraction bar, and then parentheses b1 plus b2. Let's do this again. The formula for the perimeter is twice the length plus twice the width. We want to solve for w. So p equals 2 lengths plus 2 widths. I'm going to use cursive L here. So I'm going to move my 2L to the other side. So p minus 2L equals 2w. And now I have two options. I can either divide every term separately like this, or I could have used one giant division bar like this. This is an acceptable answer. This is an acceptable answer. Or half of p minus L equals w is an acceptable answer. All three of these would give you full credit. I'm going to type the one giant fraction. P, I'm going to type the fraction bar first. P minus 2L all over 2. Excellent. Let's go back and take a look at the last two topics here. Plotting points from graphs. You'll notice that this only needs to be done 2 times for each topic, not 5. So here's my graph. I need to go get some points, but first I need to type that into my graphing calculator. If you don't have one of these TI-84s at home, I'll show you how to use the Desmos calculator. So the first thing I'm going to do is type my y equals button, clear out anything that's there, type in exactly what I see on my screen, parentheses x minus 2, close parentheses squared, and then subtract 2. Once I choose second graph, I can view a table of points, and all I need to do is plot at least 5. So negative 2, 14 won't work, but negative 1, 7 will work, 0, 2, 1, negative 1, 2, negative 2, 3, negative 1, 4, 2, 5, 7. And I see that nice symmetry of that quadratic curve there. So once I'm done plotting the points, it will ask me to use my mouse. I have a touch screen, so I'm going to kind of try and draw like this. But you'll notice I didn't pass through those points, so I need to be very careful. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to give it another try. I'm going to use my finger here. I'm going to sketch a little bit at a time. Use my finger here. Oops. Sketch a little bit at a time. And that doesn't look so good. So I'm going to try one more time. There we go. I'm going to hit it over here. There we go. Oh, I didn't quite get it. The bottom there. Now it's a little wonky, but I'm pretty sure it's going to give it to me. So let's see. Yes. Look at that. It wasn't very perfect, but I had arrows on both ends, and I passed through all of my plotted points. So let's try that one more time. Again, you take this equation, you type it into your y equals button on your graphing calculator, and that's how you plot it. If you don't have a graphing calculator at home, you're going to use the website Desmos Graphing Calculator. So let me show you what that will look like. First, you're going to open a new tab. You're going to search for Desmos graphing. In the search results, you'll choose this one here. And in this first line, you're going to type your function. Again, I see my function is parentheses x plus 5 quantity squared minus 2, parentheses x plus 5 quantity squared. You can use the shift 6, or you can open the Desmos keyboard here, and then subtract 2. Let's just double check I wrote that right. Okay. Now you can click here to see some of these points. Right? They're not, this one's not very pretty, but this -5, -2 is. Up here, above where you typed your equation, you can see a little gear. And then once I click that gear, I can open the table. So here are some points. Again, on my grid, I'm only 10 by 10, so I can't plot all of these numbers. They're too large. But I can plot -2, 7. So I'm going to plot -2, 7. And then I'm going to type my own numbers in here. How about -3? Press enter. How about -4? How about -5? How about -6? -7? You'll see I'm getting some numbers that will fit on my graph. So -3, 2. -3, 2. -4, -1. -4, -1. -5, -2. Oops, that's the wrong dot. -5, -2. -6, -1. Oops, I plotted something wrong here. That looks wonky. -4, -1. Oh, it's -1. -4, -1. There we go. -6, -1. -7, 2. -7, 2. And if you look at the symmetry here, see how these 2 points are on the same line? I'm betting that -8 will be up here at 7, but I'll just double check by typing -8 in my calculator, and yep, there it is. So again, once I have it, once I have all of these dots plotted, I click Done Plotting. I use my finger to kind of trace, but remember, your connected graph line has to hit all of the blue dots. So you can't miss any, right? So as I'm drawing, see how I'm kind of missing it here? So I have to be very careful. So let's see. I'm going to zoom in. I think I'm going to zoom in because I'm having a hard time drawing it here. So here we go. Here we go. Much better. Now that I zoomed in to see it, I like the way that looks. So I'll submit my answer. And we're done. Let's go back to this last section here. If I take you back, it says plot points using the square root function. So again, you can use your TI-84. And in the y equals button, to get a square root sign, you have to press the blue key. So -2, blue, x squared, and then I can type x plus 4. And then you look at your table, and you plot some points that will fit, because there's a lot of decimal numbers, but 0, -4 works. Plot it. Then I'm going to try arrowing down. 5, -6 works. So 5, -6. And looks like 12, -8. Well, that's off the grid. So it looks like I need to go in the other direction. 0, -4 I did. So here we go. Here's some good ones. -3, -2. -3, what did I mess up on here? -0, -4. Oh, this was a +5, sorry. +5, -6. 0, -4. -3, -2. -4, 0. Okay, let's see what else. 12, negative 8. So that makes sense, because 12, negative 8 would be right over here somewhere. Alright, so I'm done plotting. I'm going to draw my line through here. Whoops. And now let's double check. Yep. So 12, negative 8. So I can't go past negative 8. So that's good. I like that. Alright, that concludes our tutorial for homework number 13.